Our next guest is, I would say, one of the most it was the best small talk I've ever had before before an episode, that's for sure. But you can see her streaming on Twitch, commentating Melee, and being a wonderful voice for all the things that we need to talk about in the Melee scene. She has graced our ears behind the mic and is currently gracing our podcast behind the webcam. So Chelly Toms, thank you for being here.
Oh, that was a nice little intro. Blessed. Very nice. It's nice to hear people say nice things about you.
Yeah.
I know that's the point, but like, I understand that much.
What if I opened up with just a roast, with just an awful, like, terrible string? Every episode, just a string of terrible things and criticisms.
I honestly think with the guests that you've had on, because I've heard a couple of your podcasts. I heard the one with Webs. I heard the one with Ipengu. I think we could all take it. We're pretty strong. I think we've got the rhinoceros skin, so I'd be open to a roast.
All right, maybe at the end, maybe I'll start taking notes throughout, and we'll fit it in. But thanks for coming on. We have never met, to my knowledge.
No, I don't think so. No.
And from what I've seen, I'm a big fan of everything you're putting in. Your stream is wonderful. Your background, as I said, is full of personality and color and love. And
it's a lot going on.
You are an iconic, just huge Melee stan. You just ooze passion for the game, and it shows in everything you do. So I guess to start off, I'd love to hear like your origin story. Like, what got you into the game? What was your first experience watching, entering, anything like that?
So, funnily enough, when I found out about Smash, I hated it. And the reason being was that I'd never actually been a big gamer when I was younger, but I got into university, studied like acting and stuff like that, and a group of people were like, hey, like, Chelly, do you want to come around? We're going to start playing fighting games just for funsies and hang out. I was like, yeah, that sounds great. So every Tuesday we'd play Street Fighter or Tekken, or, you know, someone was always bringing a new game. And one of my friends, his tag is G, he was like, oh, we should try out Smash. Like, I love Smash. Smash is great. I was like, I've never heard of it. And he definitely knew how to wave dash, dance, all that good stuff. And I'd never touched the game before. I picked Mewtwo. I got Stomp Need quite a lot. And I was like, this game sucks. I don't play this game. Tekken was better. I could mash as Eddie. But he was like, oh, well, there's a documentary. And I was like, oh, I'd be down to watch a documentary. I'm like, you know, we don't always have to play. I'm not that good. So I'm down to watch them. And we sat down, three of my friends, and we watched the doc, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And I think we got to the Ken episode, and I'd like to think of myself on a cocky end of things. I do like to trash talk, and I'm hyper competitive. And then I saw Ken, who is also kind of cocky, hyper competitive, and I was like, I'm playing him off. And I was like, do people still do this? Do people still go to the tournaments? Is this like still a thing? Because I was like enamored by the fact that people would travel, and, you know, there was a lot of like East Coast, West Coast pride. And I was like, does that still exist? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, we should go to some. And then there was a UK tournament called A2, which was only a few hours drive away from us. I was like, we should go to this. And we did, and pretty much the rest is history. I loved going to A2. It's like one of my favorite tournaments that's ever happened. The series is amazing. And yeah, after that I was like, oh, well, what's the next one? What's happening there? And then went to Sweden for DreamHack Winter 2015, and that was when the bug came with watching people, listening to people cheer, going, you know, traveling the distance just for that kind of thing.
Right.
So that's where it came from.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I'm a doc kid too. I mean, shout outs to all the doc kids out there. I can't think of a better intro into, I mean, everything that the game has to offer, from like the insights into the complexity of the actual game. And we could talk about the doc for hours, but shout outs. I think it's,
for real.
We're getting to the point where all the doc kids are the next like veterans. Like, as long as you're not 2 years or 3 years out, as long as it's like around that time, then
we're so old now. Because now we've got the meta kids, right? They're the new doc kids, the meta kids that we're gonna have.
Or
Um,
the Ludwig kids too is going to be
the
another
Ludwig
wave.
kids. Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think like I would say that I'm a later dot kid because I started in 2000. I say started. I was introduced in like 2000. So I'm like one
Yeah,
of the slightly later ones as well, and I'm old in the community now.
sure, sure, yeah, yeah,
I've been around for ages, so yeah.
right. So I would be remiss if I didn't talk about your commentary a bit. I'm curious what got you into that and what like. Do you remember the first tournament set that you got on the mic for?
Yes. It would have been Smash and Splash. Shout out to Shakespeare for giving me my little shot, my little opportunity.
Nice.
Because I would say in the early days of me being in Melee, we didn't really have streamed locals. So going to like a local or a regional, especially at the time for me because of work and like I said to you before the podcast, I was in retail, so I couldn't just nip down to a tournament on a Saturday.
Sure.
But even then, those locals didn't have streams because the Welsh stream was really small. There was like 6 of us, so I hadn't had any experience of commentary before that. But the more obviously I started traveling, I was a big fan of Scar and Toph and Prague and all the people who were kind of in the dock and big at commentary. And I was like, that seems really fun. And then I didn't realize you could apply for commentary until I saw the Smash and Splash applications. And I was like, oh, I'd love to give that a go. I'd say I'm a pretty good talker. Like, I've studied acting forever, so I'm very comfortable in front of a camera.
Right.
I can talk for ages. So, and especially with a game that, despite me not knowing every technical, innards of the game, I don't know all the intricacies, but I think I can talk about it enough that I could get people hyped for it in the way that like Scar, Toph, Prague, I think that's what the main thing about commentary is for me, is not so much always the analysis, but the kind of hype that you can bring.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I always like to say that when it comes to there's this argument people say like you have to be a top player to be a commentator, which is kind of how it used to be because that's all like it was so much about like you needed the gumption to actually step up to the mic and to be the guy talking because everyone around you could hear you. So if you weren't like super well established, then everyone's just gonna yell at you and whatever. But I think that the essence of what makes good commentary is kind of what you said. I mean, you have the chops, the actual studies of speaking. You have a wonderful voice and a wonderful accent. I mean, I'm sure the American in me, the American in me has to mention it because I think we love accents over here. We think
it's exotic for sure.
Yep. But as I said in the intro, it's about like the passion for the game, and you could be the most like you could be the drug fox with a steady voice and have great like analysis videos, like that could be your thing. But when it comes to bringing hype and bringing the viewers into the match, I think way more important is to know that the commentator is like a huge Melee fan. They're there to get excited for the game. And I mean, who cares if it's if it's an AMSA tech or just like an ASDI down? It's not going to affect most people. Like those intricacies, most of the time, the game's too fast anyway for anyone to care.
Yeah, and I think variety is the spice of life too, in the sense of like there's a lot of people who like that kind of commentary, and I don't mind it. I think the nice balance in commentary for me personally, what I love in a commentator is having the hype, but also having like those little tidbits of information that's
sure.
So what's going on, and you can like maybe throw like a bite-sized bit of knowledge to listeners. But I've never been a fan of either one way or the other necessarily. So I don't like only hype, like nothing else, but I also don't like only analysis. And that's obviously just for me, but you'll find people who like super love the analysis commentary. Sometimes you like the people who have like the hype, some people like the mix. And I think we have enough commentators now. The pool is like, I will say saturated. I think that's the correct term. But we have so many different styles of commentators that I don't think it should ever really be an issue for people listening to a major, because you've always got those different styles of commentary.
Yeah.
So,
and I think what's good now is that really the meta isn't to be a particular style or to be like to follow a certain trend. It's more so like, do you have your own voice? Do you have
Mm-hmm.
something distinct that only you can bring? Even if it's just like, oh, I'm the guy who knows. Like my distinct thing right now is that I've known about Jmook for for years, right?
Okay.
And so I get the very distinct capability of being like, hey, this is what he was like when he was 14, you know, and just leaning into that side of where you are. I always encourage you know, new commentators or people that are trying to break into it to just be like, hey, what are you about? And just bring that. Like, don't try to be the next Scar, you know, don't try to be the next Slime. Just, you know, bring yourself to it. And
I agree.
I think you in particular did a really good job, like establishing like, this is what I'm good at, this is who I am, and bringing as much of that to the table.
I appreciate that. I think I slightly disagree though. I think and the only reason I do disagree is because I think at one point I was trying to be good at commentary. And I think I was one of those
Granted, I didn't
people
see
who
your
were
first.
like,
I
oh,
didn't see your
hello.
first comment. I did not see you
Oh, of
doing your
course.
first one.
Well, I think I've been doing commentary for like two or 3 years. Something along those lines. But I remember being like, oh, I have to say everything correct and I have to recognize really good back ears, or you know, I have to recognize ASDI down. And I would like address the audience like, oh, you know, hello, welcome back. Oh my god, it's so exciting. And I wasn't very like genuine and true to myself, and trying to like fake a friendship with maybe a commentator I didn't know was a little rough. And I think very recently in this past year, I've realized that making friends with a dude that I have no idea who it is. In fact, best example of that is a guy called Star Fox Freshman, and I was put on commentary with him at SmashCon. He's I think he's from MDVA, or he's always at the MDVA tournaments at least. And one of the times I realized that maybe I should just relax and go on commentary and just get to know this dude while we're commentating. I think it was Pound. And me and him just, you could see the friendship kind of like developing, and then we were also just enjoying the game. And I think we commentated a year later, the SmashCon where, I don't know what year it was, the one where Leffen messed up Salem.
Yep.
And it was hilarious because we had a set and we were commentating it, having a good time, and we were hyped because we'd got paired together again. We're like, oh, what's up? And our monitor went off. And we were like, oh, what are we supposed to do? And then Leffen's like crowd in the background, because Leffen's like being Salem, and all we can hear in our headsets is just like, ah. I'm like, oh god, we can't see the match, we don't know what's going on. So we just kind of had to improvise, and we stood up and commentated. And that's like our little, I guess, thing that we really enjoyed, standing up and commentating, because it got us like super hyped. And we're like, oh my god, this and this. We're sitting down, felt way too formal. And we were just like, oh yes, you know, be back after the break. But when we were stood up, we were like, oh my god, they did this thing. You know, Polish took out this person. And I think realizing to be more genuine and showing your personality came through a lot later for me than I'd have liked to have done, I guess.
Well, that's actually a great segue into what I wanted to talk about, which is like the evolution of this skill set. I think there's a common misunderstanding of like, you either have commentator talent or you don't, which I think is kind of nonsense, right? Like, it's a skill like anything else. You mentioned your acting background. People will be like, oh, I have to go to acting school now if I want to get a spot, or oh, I need to you know, there's all these different excuses. Yeah, these things that are unsustainable or unreasonable. And I'm curious about like what you learned from the first few. You mentioned about authenticity. What was your kind of method for like review? Did you review your own sets? Did you take feedback? How did you learn and improve over time?
God, there's a lot to unpack here.
Good.
There's a few things. I'll narrow it down to like maybe 3. So the first time I commented at Smash and Splash, I was put on 3 different blocks, and certain blocks for me personally worked out better than others. So I enjoyed certain blocks more. There was a block I didn't particularly like, which is partially my fault, partially you know, it's a team game when you commentate. And I remember just not liking it. I was like, why did I not like this one more than the others? And I did sit and listen to a few of them at one point, and I realized that the authenticity part of it, like I was saying, was that we were struggling to do this kind of, I knew this person in real life, but I was struggling to do this weird like professional commentary thing with this person that I have a completely different relationship with outside of commentary.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt really strange putting on this like professional persona when in real life we were not like that at all. And then I started noticing, obviously, some of the best peers in commentary are people who are already friends. So I would go on commentary with people I didn't really know, which was fine because, you know, that's the gig. But I found that I was a lot more comfortable with either people that I could be myself with and it was still relatively professional versus trying to kind of fake something, you know, trying to fake being an esports commentator. The second thing is I did take feedback, but not a lot of it.
Okay.
And the reason being is it doesn't happen now. It's actually something like touch wood I'm actually really thankful for is when I first started commentating, you had the whole, woman, and I was like, shut the fuck up. But as time went on, I think the more I became well known, I actually have gone back in Twitch chats more recently, and I actually don't get any kind of shit in the chat, to be honest with you. It's relatively good. So my feedback now is a lot more constructive than it was, because once upon a time it's just get the famous top players on and, you know, get them to commentate. But now it's more, yeah, you know, I think Chelly could do this and do this, and feedback's a lot better. And honestly, one of the biggest feedbacks I get is that I'm not comfortable in what I'm saying. So the one they've said is like, you know, she's good at play-by-play, but she needs to just kind of be comfortable in what she's saying, which I'm not always. Like I said earlier, I don't really know the intricacies of the game, but I don't tend to commit to this is what happened, definitely, because sometimes like there's things that not even top players know. This game is so deep. It's like, you know, this whole ocean of information. And a lot of people get things wrong. You see top players now on Twitter like, oh, well, this is not right, and this is correct, and oh, you're wrong about this. So for someone who's like a low-level player like me, I don't like committing to this is definitely the thing that they did. But I mean, that takes time. That comes with like getting better at the game. It comes with, yeah, I guess just being more comfortable with the game and just being comfortable. That's literally the only way I can explain it is just relax. I think that was 2. I actually unpacked it in 2. I think that's fine.
No, that was great. On the last point, yeah, I definitely think that I have a similar problem where when I'm watching commentary and someone says like, oh, that was a crazy up air into side B into blah blah blah, but it was actually a back air. I'm like, oh my god, they got it wrong, and then I'm that critical on myself when realistically you could say something wrong as long as the flow continues, and that's totally fine. Like, you could be slightly wrong, or you could call something the wrong tech, or you can, these errors are allowed to happen. Yeah. Because as long as you're not harping on it and talking about something wrong for 30 seconds, if it's just like an off the hand thing, I'm in that same boat of like needing to just forget about it, move on.
Chill, yeah. It's like, I think the thing is that I don't think that's necessarily your fault or anyone's fault of anyone who does commentary, because I do think the community can be extremely overcritical of commentators, and I think I understand where it comes from too. I feel like we're a smaller community. We've been trying to get big. We've been trying to, well, not necessarily trying to get big, but we're trying to like cement ourselves as like, we matter as a game.
Sure.
Nintendo, look at us. We matter as a game. And I think people want the commentary to be perfect. We want our players to be perfect. We want the community to be like amazing, which is fine. But I think you can't expect perfection from everyone and everything at any time. Like, I don't go to commentary to figure out I don't go to commentary for math R&D. If I watch a math set, right, for instance, and I don't know, Toph says something wrong and says, oh, something this about math, I'm not like, oh, that's it, that I'm cementing this as a piece of information in my brain. Anyone who says a different is wrong. So I don't think it's too bad to just kind of say a passing issue. I do think sometimes it's a little bad if you, like you said, take 30 seconds and just go off about something that is completely wrong. Right. But we're all human and we all make mistakes. It just doesn't matter. There are worse things going on in the world than, right, I accidentally said that you could ASDI a Falco drill shine something. Like, who cares? Like, who cares?
I definitely think there's a trend of being hypercritical of commentators. I think there's a good conversation to be had about like what's the ideal level of commentary, like what. Oh my god, look how flushed my hand is. What the hell is going on? I I need a new webcam, whatever. There's something to be said about like, okay, what actually makes good commentary? Like, can we all decide who the good commentators are? What can people improve on? And it's impossible to actually get an answer. And I think slowly over time, the discourse on commentary is becoming like it's very subjective, but there are skills that can be improved on. If you are stumbling over your words, then perhaps you can work on not stumbling over your words. If you're using a lot of filler words, if you're cursing too much, or if you are getting distracted too much, like there are some things that are clearly like, hey, this can be improved on. But when it comes to styles, that is really getting to the point of like what I said before. As long as you are hitting those fundamentals and your style is genuine to you and not this attempt to be what the community wants or what you think will be a successful approach, then I think there's room for everyone to get into it and to start developing those skills and to become a good commentator.
Yeah.
And on the point you said before about like like people you're comfortable with and people you didn't know, all that is a huge, I don't think it's a problem. I think it's a huge opportunity that I personally feel very strongly about. And a big reason why I'm virtually headhunting commentators and people I respect, like yourself and other commentators out there to come on and do content with me and to talk to me and selfishly I want to get to know them and establish these friendships and relationships, or at least at a level of like somehow getting to know you and getting that first like icebreaker down. And I try to say this all the time. I encourage every single person in Melee to start a podcast. Like I want people to talk to each other more because I don't think commentary needs to be so like zero sum, so cutthroat. It can be really collaborative, and we could realize that it's not just like these top S tier Scar and Toph homemade waffles Phil dynamics. Like we can build those types of couplings if we just keep trying things out and getting to know each other more outside of the few opportunities we have to commentate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think you're absolutely right too, and I think also a lot of the S tier commentators, and actually going back to a podcast you did with Webbs, was Webbs actually turned around and said, oh, you know, there's people who are guaranteed like their spots, like as long as those people are going to tournaments, they will be guaranteed a spot, and I think that's pretty cemented in, you know, the fan favorites and all that good stuff. But I think there's so many commentators and there's so many people who want to do it, and I do believe that everyone should get the shot, because I'm lucky to get my shot because of Jake, straight up, and I had the luck of Tantalus taking a liking to me too, and they're like the main two who kind of gave me shots, and Bobak too for Genesis. But finding someone that you pair really well with, and then also trying to get that like coupling established at like a higher level to you know, so you can start commentating really good sets, is really difficult. So I think that if you're a smaller commentator, you're at a disadvantage in that sense. And then you're also at a disadvantage because you've got the bigger commentators commentating the bigger sets that has like a lot more things going on, a lot of more, you know, crazy stuff. And I actually think that commentating round one pools is harder than commentating, say, top 32,
right?
Because sometimes you've got people like me who, you know, can't play the game properly, and you're just like, oh, what are they doing? Oh, that was a good up there, following into nothing. But there's down to like there's not.
Right.
It's not as fast paced. There's not like a lot going on. Like you can't. You could do all the information searching in the world. I have notebooks and notebooks of melee information. But I can't be like, oh, that was a really nice wave shine against Falcon in round one pools, because, you know, some people are new, some people just don't do that. Like, people aren't doing crazy combos like they are in top 8. So not only do you have to kind of make what might not be a very interesting game interesting, but you also have to kind of make that connection with someone you don't know. Whereas obviously, the higher up you go, the easier it is, in my opinion, at least.
I think that's a really good point. There's a lot of kind of barriers in commentary that some people struggle to see the paths around. My kind of one size fits all kind of way to address that is just doing content and developing your skill outside of it. That's the path I took. I still feel like I'm on, I'm far away from my goals, but in terms of like when majors come back, when we're talking about these spots that are open, like the early round pools and all that, you're right. It's a completely different skill set. It's like you have to go there, and I think there's one of, I'd say, the most popular. They've risen above this, but the most popular like early pools duo was Ludwig Slime, because they would almost ignore the match entirely or would like have fun with what was going on. And if you look at that, there's an argument to be made that like maybe they should have like paid more attention to the game itself, but you can't deny that they were a fan favorite off the bat. Like they were having the most fun, they were cracking jokes constantly, and they made it a different thing. So people replicating them, I would just make sure it's in an authentic way. Make sure you're not just going in and like shitting on on day one players.
yeah, exactly.
it's in a way that's like respectful, but you're right. You can't go in expecting it to be at the level of like our top 100 players, because that's just not who you're looking at. It's a tough environment. I don't know the best solution for it, but I think as a community, we're still searching for like, how do we foster talent? How do we like make sure that it's accessible? It's not too exclusive, while still maintaining a level of like, you need to be decent to get into it. It's tough.
Well, I think it kind of comes with getting better as the matches get better, if that makes sense. So, I mean, kind of messing around in round one pools is, why not? Like, go for it. And I think then, say you go on to, round two pools, it's getting a little bit more serious. And then I think that's when you start to slightly take more kind of notice of the game. And then, you get into top 128 or 64 or whatever kind of large tournament it is. And that's when you do have to start, I think, paying attention to the game more and bringing something to the table, because these are like big matches now. These are starting to become the important matches. Like, even if you see like a top player, and I don't know, say you see Zayn in round one pools, like, cool, it's Zayn, but there's not like a lot of community interest in round one pools as such. And if you want to kind of dick about, then cool. Like, I think that's not a problem. But then when you've got, I don't know, Zayn Mango Grand Final, Zayn Hungry Box Mango, whatever, that's when it's like, this is super important. Like, the whole tournament's on the line. You're commentating top 8. Like, this is serious stuff. And I think that's when you have to act like it. You can't just be like, oh, lol, I had bread today, and like just talk about nothing. You got to concentrate on this game and be like, you can still bring the hype, and you don't necessarily have to be an analyst. But I think the focus on the game depends on kind of like the level where you're at in the bracket, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a kind of a sliding scale that's somewhat linear. It's not too. I think it's pretty clear like when when the melee's good, even when it's like round one and you think it's going to be like maybe a throwaway game, and all of a sudden it's tight. Like, as long as you have one eye on the game, like, wait, this is crazy. Oh my, wait, what? Like, you have to make sure that you're still present for it. And at the same time, like, I would say my favorite times, like when I was first getting into the game, I think I watched Apex like 2014 was like the first tournament. I sat in my dorm room bed with my laptop and watched like 8 hours a day, just like constantly everything that was available. I was just, that was like the honeymoon phase, whatever. But I would say what I really enjoyed was, even if the melee wasn't crazy, if it wasn't like the gods playing, if the commentators were talking like about the event, if they were bringing me into the experience, maybe not, what this round two pools means or whatever, but like, hey, we went to the bar last night, or I'm seeing like these top players playing friendlies before, or like these little things that if you're not physically there, then it's nice to get that little bit of like it feels like you're there, and it feels like you're part of the community because you mentioned that player that I recognize. Like
Yeah.
It's sometimes I feel like we need to go back to what we were like when we first started. We were like green and like wide-eyed and just loving everything about the community because there's so much to grab a hold of.
Yeah.
Commentators have that unique ability to like feed that and to foster it and to really like bring so much enjoyment to people, you know?
Yeah, I think that's part of like it being like a tight knit community too, is because this community loves being invested in something
Mm-hmm.
or someone or a player or like a storyline, which is obviously like what makes like Scar and Tofu so good. For instance, they're like all about the narrative, all the storyline, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of like you said, like even with the round one pool, if you see like a regional hero, I remember specifically again Smash and Splash, but it was Michael 4 million billion, whatever, how
Yeah.
many zeros are on the end of his tag now. And I don't remember it being necessarily a really high match in like I think he did do really well that tournament, but one of the matches that was really important was like a lower one, and all it was regional pride. It was like Michael 4 billion and this other region, and there was so much hype around it. And to bring that onto commentary and be like, oh my god, this is a huge, like, this is a battle, this is happening, this is happening.
Sure.
And like it wasn't necessarily high level because I didn't catch it because it was actually just a big crowd, but people get invested in battles and salty sweets and all this other stuff surrounding the tournament. Like if you tell people, oh, none drank too much last night, haha, lol, saw him on the floor this morning, and like having these little storylines and narratives and reasons and things, it's kind of like going through a game, right, where you kind of do have the main story, but you do like doing the side quests and finding like these little Easter eggs and that kind of thing. That's the only way I can explain it.
Right.
Is that you have these little random bits of information that make it seem as though you're there and you're invested and you want this player to do really well. They're not going to win, but how cool would it be if your regional hero got to, I don't know, top 16? He's not going to win, but it'd be sick.
Right.
And people really like go into that kind of thing. And I think being a commentator, the most important thing is you make people as invested as you can. And it reminds me of a commentary set I had with Webbs, also at Smash and Splash, funnily enough. But it was the longest melee match apparently of all time, and I don't know whether it still is, but it was a 45-minute long match, and it was Pew Pew and Chudat. Trying to keep people invested in a 45-minute match is maybe one of the hardest things of all time.
Holy shit.
But if you can do it, if you can keep people on the, oh my god, what is going on train, great. You don't need to talk about Chudat, crouch cancel, down smashing something. Nobody cares. People want to know, oh my god, how is this percent going to end up? Like, what is going on?
Oh my god. So, how, I mean, that's when these other skills come in. I heard Tafo talk about like what can commentators do outside of Melee to improve at commentary, and he listed improv comedy and freestyle rap. So the freestyle is like, so when things are going fast, you can get your words out really quick and you can make sure that you're speaking at the type of speed that needs to go along with Melee. But in improv, it's the opposite. It's when it's a 45-minute set, or when Wizrobe's up and he's taking his minute in between sets, like to be able to speak to your commentator to get something moving and to build up either the storyline, or even if it's just some inside joke that you're crafting at the time. Like, you need to come up with something. You can't have dead air. So yeah. What do you come up with? I don't know. Hey, Webbs, I like your shirt today. Oh, I got it from blah, blah, blah. And you just build that up. And all of a sudden you have another thing that, who knows, maybe at the end of the 45 minutes, Webbs' shirt is sweaty and you could comment on that, or I don't know. Yeah. But these outside skills, I think people don't really harp on as much. Like, what can you do to improve when shit goes down and you have 10 minutes between sets and you're sitting there, they're like, hey man, you got to cover this time. Like, what are you going to do? It's a fun opportunity to be like, you know, what can I bring? What can I do to save the day in this scenario?
Yeah. And I think a lot of people panic in that situation, because that's when I should do the esports commentator thing where I, how was your, tournament experience before, and how do you rate this tournament, which is fine. But But I think that's when people kind of shut up and they're like, oh, no, I don't want there to be nothing at all to say. Whereas you can just have a conversation with your commentator. Like, if he's your friend, like, cool. Then you just have a conversation with your friend like you would in any, like, if you were sat just watching top 8 and you weren't commentating, you would be talking about the match. You'd be hanging out, or you'd be talking about the experience, or, oh, I could do with a drink, something stupid like that.
Right.
And then if it's not someone you know, you can just get to know them. Oh, how did you do in pools? Or, what do you think of this player? Oh, I don't know this player. What do you think of them? And people are quite scared to ask questions too, I think, in commentary. And I was too, because I thought it would be something that would make me look stupid.
Right.
Until you realize, don't worry about it, relax. Ask your commentator. If your commentator doesn't know, then maybe they're not that well known. And then Twitch chat usually like, oh, is this person from Michigan? Duh.
Right.
And they love that. They love letting the commentators know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, why are people in Twitch chat really? To hang out. That's why people are there.
Yeah.
So.
Man, there's a few different directions I want to go on. I think I'm having so much fun talking about commentary, so I think we'll keep it on the topic a little bit. But you mentioned a few times like the esportsification. There was definitely a hot like year and a half where that was the big meme, right? Like, oh, you're not being esports. You said like shit on commentator or whatever, and oh, I don't like this commentator because he's so esports now or whatever. Now we're definitely in a new era where Nintendo has given us a full hand of middle fingers, so we are kind of done appealing to whatever fantasy we have with partnering, or I don't want to get into that necessarily, but when it comes to that idea of like an esports type of commentary or a very professional attitude, I think Melee has been a kind of a beacon of like the old school style and the authentic kind of just people talking to each other. That's what our community seems to really enjoy the most. And that's the level that even our top, there's a funny story I heard before I throw it over, but so Sajam has a story where he was trying to get into Melee and learn a bit about it, and he watched a top level set with Scar and Toph commentating. And his big takeaway was that at the end of this full set, he learned nothing about Melee. He came out with zero additional information about the game itself, frame data, blah, blah, blah. But he had a huge regard and props for the way that it was commentated, the energy that it brought, like how engaged he was with the set. It didn't matter that he wasn't understanding what a crouch cancel was if he came away from it happy to have watched it. And that seems like a pretty unique situation we're in, where we commentate matches like there's like it's a 10-person local, and right now in terms of numbers we're like top 10, top 15 esports in the world. It's or at least in the United States. Like, it's an interesting dynamic, and I'm curious like where you think, I guess, the meta of commentary will go. Do you think that we've given up all esports-esque, aspirations, or do you think it's still kind of creeping into our culture?
God, I hope not, because I hate esports commentary.
Same.
For Melee specifically, like, it works for other games, but I think the thing that people like about Smash, or what I like about Smash, and I'm not going to speak for everyone, I guess, but I love that it's like so rough and tumble, and that we have such big personality in Melee, like huge personality. And I think to tone it down to become like just a placeholder narrator for our game just feels wrong for some reason. It just doesn't sit right. Whereas, like, I don't know, I guess like League and Dota and all that, they've already gone, they've esportsed. They're done. They can't go back. But I don't know, I do think we are going to still continue moving into the esports commentary and making sure we're professional, making sure we're this. Or at least the people who are like really kind of trying to cement their place. But I wish we wouldn't. I really wish we wouldn't. I kind of, there's a charm and there's like a personality about how rough and tumble we are. And we are the community that came up from like the dust. We came from the sun. We came up. And the reason we came up is because we were ourselves and because we were real. And I like it to the point where we are making something of ourselves and kind of being more professional and that kind of thing. But I think there's a lot of streamers, I guess like VGBC, for instance, they're still going to have like a lot of young viewers. So I understand like maybe not being potty mouth, which is a nightmare for me because I'm a terrible potty mouth. But I don't know. I would like to not see it go to esports, but I think, I don't know, I think that's just kind of the way. I think we're going to have this weird 50-50, and it's a really uncomfortable place to be, because then I think you're also going to get the community who want the esports part, and then you're going to want one side of the community that want the grassroots rough and tumble banter,
right?
Talk about the game, talk about fun things, and you're always going to have that like kind of clash. And we're in this weird kind of middle ground where everyone's critical of everyone's style and critical of how we should be behaving in commentary, and who should be with who, and there's a lot. So
yeah, I think the people who want the esports style, and when we say like the esports style, there's a lot that goes into that, which I kind of want to break down in a second. But I think really what they're saying is we want this to be accessible and we want this to grow. And I think that school of thought sees maybe the two commentators who know each other very well. I think of Chillin and Vish as two people that can get into a conversation where they're just buddies talking. And sometimes I enjoy it because I recognize their voices and I know that they're just like having a good time with it. And when I see criticism, it's like, why aren't they focusing on the game? And that's not just them. It's like that style.
everyone,
Yeah. So the attitude of like, let's make this more esports, let's pay more attention, let's blah, blah, blah. Really they're saying is, can we get our act together and can we like explode the scene and do the right thing? And I think that kind of misses the point of like, that's making the assumption that is going to grow the scene in any tangible way. Like, what are we doing this for? Is the government going to come in and give us a money to do this? Like, are we trying to appeal to PBS? Like, what's the actual benefit to being more, professional
polite.
and polite? Yeah, polite's the best word, because polite insinuates just a boredom to it, just a self-censorship that I don't think is super necessary. That being said, you shouldn't go up and say like fuck constantly. And
I agree. Yeah. There's a line,
balance,
like within reason, for sure. But it definitely has to be within reason. But I think the dream was that, maybe one day Nintendo would pick us up and put us on Disney Plus or whatever, like Ultimate. Like they were kind of hoping,
sure,
maybe we'll get our spot on Disney and maybe we'll get this little glory. But like, I think it's very naive to be, I don't know, maybe this is like kind of pessimistic of me, but I think it's very naive to think that anyone else will grow our scene other than us.
right?
Because we've done a fantastic job of growing our own scene. It grew perfectly. I know it had its kind of era of almost dying, but at this point, I don't see Smash Melee dying for a long time.
Right.
And we've done a great job of growing it to here. Nobody else is going to take it any further except for us, because Nintendo's vetoed that. That dream is dead. That dream is gone. I agree. I don't think you should be going up going, bitches and blah, 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 and just having no regard for the game whatsoever and just doing whatever you want to.
Of course.
Because I think there should be, with commentary, at least a level of respect for the game and the community.
Yeah.
So when I say, I hate esports and I hate politeness, that's not me just being like, I'm going to be edgy and throw myself on commentary and everything's lame and
Sure.
But I think if you want to commentate, you're usually someone who has respect and passion for the community, for the people watching, for the people who are listening, the players at least, because you don't want any player to like watch back your set and you're just kind of like shit talking them, and you don't want people at home to be like, well, that's my favorite player, you kind of just saying all this horrible stuff, or you're not like concentrating on maybe one of the most important matches of tournament, because like grand finals isn't necessarily always the most intense. We were talking about we had a tournament recently where Zayn went against Axe, and that actually was the big turning point of top 8, which was the only one that nobody really knew what would happen with the outcome, because it affected a bunch of other brackets to get to grand finals. So grand finals wasn't even the most interesting, or it was interesting at the time, but going into it, the storyline before top 8 even started, losers finals was easily like the most interesting thing.
Yeah.
And if you go into any, say, local, and you just don't really care until grand finals, have like some respect for the game and the players. And do you like this game, or do you just like the top players?
Wow. Yeah,
You know?
that's a pretty potent question. I think we're all guilty. I'm certainly guilty of kind of tunnel visioning on like the people I know and like the clout, I guess you could say, like, oh, I've seen these people in all these top eights, oh blah blah. Like if it's not that person, then I'll be hypercritical. But because it's Toph, I can't say bad things about Toph. Like that was definitely a period of mine that I wholeheartedly regret. But it's true. I think there's also, and I have a few questions that I want to get into, and we're about 3/4 of the way done, so I'll transition out of commentary. This has been great, by the way. I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah, cool. I'm enjoying it. I'm good for everyone. As long as you need, my friend.
Yeah. I always try to cap it at an hour in case, because I could talk about Melee for so long that I just need to set the precedent and hit the stop recording. But yeah, when it comes to like respecting the players, I think there's something really you need to, as a commentator, early on in the set, doesn't matter what their skill level is. Like for many of these people, this is their one shot to showcase what they've been working on and their most valuable hobby and something we put a lot of our ego into and a lot of our like self-worth into our skill in this game. And then you get to go to this major and you don't know if you're going to make it out of pools, but oh my God, now you're in winners finals or winners semis of your pool. And they said you could get put on stream and you're pumped. So you're sitting there and you can't play your next set because it's going to be on stream. You tell all your friends, you tweet it out, you tell your mom, you're like, and you have to wait a few sets. So it's like 20 minutes. So you're dying of anticipation. And you go up and you play the set, and let's say you just get trounced. Like you go up against like Kage or whatever, and he just like completely puts you into the shadow realm. And you're like, you know what? I wasn't expecting to win anyway. And you go back to the hotel room, you're watching your Twitch VODs, and you go back and you're seeing like the commentators shit on you. And they say like, man, that was bad, or like, wow, Kage's just tossing this person around. That is devastating to someone. And when I see criticisms of people being like, hey, F you, I was on stream and you were like shit talking me or blah, blah, blah. Like that needs to be validated. And you need to understand that these people are trying their best and this is a big moment for them. And if you do anything, like, I'm not saying you have to be like, oh, this person's great the whole time. But if you harp on their poor play or if you make them feel bad, you could that could be the last major they go to. I mean, that's a stinging blow. It just, you need respect for the players, you know.
It's funny that you say that. So I have two little experiences, funnily enough, and one of them is similar to the situation you just gave me, but it went well. So there was a match I had at Big House 7 or 8, and I went against this dude, and I was panicking. I'm the world's biggest choker melee as well. I'll never be good at it, but we went on there, and I played maybe worse than I normally play, and that's already pretty bad. But I won, thank God. And I remember Blue was one of the people commentating. I can't remember who else he was commentating with, but he came up to me afterwards, and he was like, "Chelly, your recovery's so bad." And I was like, oh, I know. And then I watched the setback, and he like obviously commentated and said, you know, oh, she needs to like maybe get her recovery like a little better here and there, or you know, she did this well, did that badly. And I think being able to commentate on both what they are doing well, what they're not doing well, maybe sometimes even like advice, although that's not always warranted. Some people don't like that. I don't like that. Can't stand it. But having like the mixture of the two versus like what they really mean, which was Blur being like an honest to God professional. I love Blur to bits. And he's like, yeah, this is what she did well, this is what she did bad. And then he came up to me afterwards like, Chelly, you're kind of bad. Which was great because I know Blur, it wasn't like unwarranted. But there was another set that I had in a crew battle, and I won't say where, I won't say who commentated it, but I could hear the commentators, and your girl was not doing very well. It was her first crew battle, and I was doing very badly, and I could hear the commentators also telling their co-commentator how badly I was doing.
Oh,
and
man.
I was like, oh no. And it was literally the only time I've ever been salty in my life, because I don't get kind of upset about games. I'm very like patient and calm. But in this very instance, I was like losing the game. I was losing the game in front of like a crowd of people. I was like first in, so I was like panicking. I could hear the commentators like telling me how bad I was, which made me even worse. And I got forced stock, and I like unplugged my controller, walked into the hotel, went up to my hotel room, and then spiked my controller.
Oh, man.
That is the only time I've ever been salty in this game. Only time. And I like cried, and I was very upset. And it was all because like the commentary wasn't necessarily like savage, but it was enough that I was like, make it stop. Like, please, just let your girl live. Like,
Right.
I was already dead, and they were just kind of like making it worse. Like, oh, she doesn't know this, and she doesn't know this. So I think having like a level of you doing this bad versus like kind of like the way Blur did it, where he was like, oh well, this needs some work, and like this was good, but maybe this could have some work, versus oh this person doesn't know anything, they suck, they're getting absolutely shit on. Like, yeah, there's definitely a level where you have to kind of think, if this was said about me, would I walk away from this upset? So, I mean, you could get 4-stocked, and it's like fun to be like, oh, get 4-stocked, hype. That's okay. I think that's fine. That's not like a personal attack. That's kind of just some trash talk. But I think if you're just like, oh, this person is absolute garbage and neutral and punish game, and oh, what's the point in playing? Then, turn it back.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely got to find a balance. And I didn't even know you had those experiences. I could have just let you take over at some point of exactly, because I'm like, man, this hypothetical, maybe it's a little too far fetched, and no,
nope.
Not quite. That's a thing that happens. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
So just changing pace a little bit, just in the final maybe 10 minutes we have. I know you've been grinding streaming a lot. And I'm curious, as someone who's dabbled in streaming and obviously watch a lot of streams, and you know, everyone who's in this space is like, the dream is to be like top Twitch streamer, right? Let's not kid ourselves. It's like everyone's dream. You've been finding some good success and some good momentum, and I'm curious, maybe not to your standards, as I see your face take that compliment.
Yeah, no. I was thinking. Go on.
I'm curious, just like where you're at. Like, let's just say now, let's timestamp. It's January 2021. How's the stream going? Where's your head at? Just give me a little update.
So, I actually am gonna slightly dunk and say I actually would hate to be a top Twitch streamer, and that's how I make it like bank. I would hate being a streamer, because this sounds stupid. Do you know who Super Hot Fire is? A little YouTube rapper who's like raps, but he's like, I'm not a rapper. I feel that way in the sense of games. I play games, but I'm not like a gamer. Like, that sounds really stupid, but I can't just sit and play games for hours on end. I can't do it. It drives me insane. I have to be doing other things. And I think maybe part of like my success in streaming, I wouldn't necessarily call it success. I just think I'm like relatively well known in the community, so a lot of people will come to me. I kind of appeal to a certain kind of audience. Like, a lot of the people who watch me are kind of happy-go-lucky, fun kind of people who don't mind having a drink and kind of shit talking each other, and I kind of attract that kind of crowd, I guess. I certainly am not attracting any like analysis people or people of intelligence in the game, that kind of thing. But definitely some more people like just a little bit more relaxed, and people I've met at tournaments, for instance, as well. I think I will always be happy with anything I get from stream, because the way I see it is that I just kind of come on stream to hang out. I come on stream to hang out, I play my game. I'm like, oh, maybe people would like enjoy me playing this game. But I couldn't do it for hours. I think I only stream like 3 or 4 hours at a time, but I think in the same vein as commentary, if you're not enjoying yourself, don't bother. To be honest, because there's been nights where I'm like, I don't want to stream, but some people are like forced themselves to stream for the grind. You know, they gotta grind streams so they can get the numbers, which is and absolutely a strat. But like sometimes you'll see results, sometimes you won't. And I think there's a lot, how you were saying, like, content, like the fact that you've got into content and this will help you in like this way, that way. And I think that's really intelligent. But I think in terms of stream, because I don't want to make content on YouTube. I don't have the brains for it. I'm not funny unless I've got like someone to bounce off. Like I can't like write comedy. I'm not good at it. My kind of strengths are talking to people, and like I can be funny if I'm talking to someone maybe. My strength is people. So I don't have like the YouTube kind of brain. I don't have the technical ability. I think I just kind of enjoy playing games, and people like enjoy watching that kind of authenticity. And if I don't want to stream, I just won't stream. Sometimes that's been a week. Sometimes that's been a few months. Like this year, I barely streamed because I was just too busy enjoying my quarantine. I was kicking it back, watching documentaries all day. It was great. So, but I don't know if I'm necessarily the right person to talk to about that in a way. I think there's a lot more intelligent kind of thought process that goes into streaming. I kind of just like being, and that's it.
I don't think there's a better person to talk. I think everyone who streams at all is exactly who I want to talk about. I want to hear just kind of your experience and whoever I'm talking to's like personal experience with it. I know with me, I'm a very like sprinty type of dude. So if I get into something, it's like, this is my thing for the month or whatever. And like, I get super into it. So like over the summer, I was very into streaming. Like, here's my plan, here's my blah, blah, blah. And then I just kind of fizzled out. So I think the approach that you're putting up is just like, hey, when I want to do it, I want to do it. And I think that's really valid and kind of a refreshing take on this thing, this like beacon of validity of when you're an person, an internet personality or whatever. You got to be like getting your 8 hours a day of streaming, or you got to like hard commit, or you got to make sure you're pumping out YouTube content and getting all the algorithms right and blah, blah, blah. That's overwhelming. Oh, I mean, it wouldn't be the meta if it didn't work, but that doesn't mean it like is the right way to do it. Because after a while, if you're doing something you hate, then why would someone get into Twitch streaming if it was just going to be another job that they hate? Like go work at a business if you're going to hate your job. You know what I mean?
There was a point where it's funny. There's a point where I played Wind Waker on stream, and if anyone listening to this is listening, they'll know exactly what I'm about to say. But I absolutely detested Wind Waker to the point where I was getting pissed. And I was like, what? Because I put it on because like everyone's a Legend of Zelda fan except for me, apparently. I like the old stuff, but like I haven't played any of the new ones or Majora's. So I was like, I'll try Wind Waker. Everyone likes Legend of Zelda. And I hated it. And people were loving it because it was Legend of Zelda. And I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I can't stand it. And I stopped. And I literally didn't want to stream for like 2 weeks. So I was like, this game sucks. Like, I hate it. And it's meant to be the big game to play, and people tuned in for it. But fuck that noise. I hated it. But it's really funny because someone else actually asked me for advice recently about stream, and he was like, I don't really know what I want my gimmick to be. I don't really know what I want my image to be. And I was like, well, what do you want to be? And he said, what do you mean? And I was like, well, if you look at any big streamer, say you look at like Dr. Disrespect. Dr. Disrespect doesn't walk around in day-to-day life with his mustache and his wig on, pulling out guns and, being badass. Like, that's not who he is. But at some point, that's probably who he wanted to be. And the only place he could be that person was on stream, because you look ridiculous doing it in real life. And like, there's a bunch of people who can't be that person in real life, but you have a great outlet for it on stream. Like, you can't be an anime girl in real life, but now we have like VTube, and if you want to be an anime girl on Twitch, you can just do a little VTube.
Yeah. I
can't go around drinking beers in the middle of the street and swearing and popping off about Cuphead bosses, but I can do it here. I can't like one of my maybe more successful streams was when I did an art stream, and I got really drunk and just pinged it all over myself. I can't do that anywhere else.
Right.
I'd be like locked up. But you can do that on stream, and if you want to be some badass kick-ass person on stream, but you can't be that person in real life. If you want to do like a superhero stream, if you're like, oh, dude, I'm super into superheroes, I really want to be a superhero, but that's not real life. Take it to the stream. You can be a superhero on stream. People would probably be really into that. If you want to dress up every day and be a superhero, you get all the Marvel DC fans. You can't walk around town like that. You can't be a real superhero. But on stream, you can do whatever, anything you want. Anything you want to be. So, do that.
I honestly, I don't want to follow up to that. That was beautiful. that was such a great sentiment. That inspired me to like. I was going through like, man, I haven't thought of this as that outlet. Like I always took it as like, I need my stream to be who I am. But none of us are like our best selves, especially in our 20s. Like, come on, that's not possible. So I love that sentiment of like, take this space and make it exactly what you want it to be. And that's, and let everything else come and let it be that like little window of your passion and into your soul. And
yeah, you don't need the green screen and the Razer keyboard and the totally Esports logo with your name on it with your banner. And yeah, you don't need that. Everyone does that. That's why nobody else is big. You don't need that.
Yeah. You might need a better webcam than mine, though. Look at this, dude. Oh my god.
Doesn't matter about your webcam. If you dressed up as Batman every day, I'm sure people would.
Just like a very like lo-fi Batman. The Batman costume's great. The webcam's super grainy. Honestly,
perfect for like a phone jacket kind of thing, like a little phone jacket thing. It would work perfectly. There's different cameras for different things, right? You get like a little 90s camera going on.
Oh, and he's playing like Lego Batman. I think that's a recipe. You know what? Maybe we'll just take it. I'll edit this part out, give the idea to no one else, and be the Batman I always wanted to be.
Yeah.
But Chelly, this has been so much fun. I'm ecstatic that you were able to come on and talk about
great.
Smash and commentary and passion and all that good stuff. This was like this filled me up a bit. This was great.
I hope so. I hope that you're only yourself and only your best self, and don't let anyone else try and influence your decisions in anything. Don't follow the esports people. Be your own person.
Wonderful. I'm going. If you want to just drop your plugs real quick, you could do that now.
Twitch.tv/Chelly Toms. If you're trying to see someone really bad at games do their best, it is a struggle, but it's a storyline. And twitter.com/Chelly Toms. I'm Chelly Toms on anything, so you can just find me there. Don't add me on Facebook if I don't know you. Leave me alone.
Yeah, don't give your LinkedIn profile or anything.
That's gone. I had too many people on LinkedIn. I was like, but yeah, Chelly Toms on everything. So if you want to see me post food and pets and selfies, Instagram, Twitter, whatever.
Great. Well, again, thank you, and hopefully we can commentate a set soon.
Definitely. Yes, I'm down for sure when it's all back.
Yeah, sounds good. All right, we'll catch you later.
All right.